also open it up to Q&A from the audience. Yes. Do you need a mic? Yes. No. Do you want to say your name and then ask a question?
My name's Allison. Kidding. So during the whole Michael Derrick Hudson nonsense, I got asked by a reporter, having an Anglo-Irish name and being Asian, does that mean that things have been easier for you? And there's so much in that question about intersectionality and power and stuff. So I was wondering, did anyone, to those of you who have names of European origins, did anyone ask you that? And if not, what would you say to that reporter?
I would say no.
Yeah, nobody asked me that, but I would also say no. But I will also say that, I'm not sure if this question was specifically in terms of literary submissions, right? Or if it was in terms of life at large. And nobody has ever certainly explicitly said anything to me about race in submissions, and maybe that is because, maybe that's because I've never written an Asian character. I don't know.
Yeah, the quick answer would be the same as Tracy and Matt. But I think with the Hudson thing, it's from Fort Wayne. He's not in the poetry world per se. At least in an academic sense. I think his assumption that his chances of being published would be increased if he used an Asian American name, and the reporter's question to you, has life been easier because you had a non-Asian name, to me really illustrates nicely the levels of astonishing ignorance that it's only a matter of one's name that determines the racism one would face. It's astonishing. But I never underestimate the power of any level of ignorance. I think as a community, we don't help ourselves if we think people get it. We want to be optimistic, but and many do. But boy, when they don't, the don't is severe in my experience. So, I have friends in that. That's a poetry anthology, probably familiar. Yeah, I've been asked that question in interviews before myself. What was it like? And just on the idea of pseudonyms, I'll just say I have a little thing for writers and pseudonyms. And George Orwell, y'all know his real name, Eric Blair. And when he was submitting early on his agent, there's some great letters of correspondence between Orwell and his agent. And Orwell was suggesting different names. Eric Blair was suggesting different names to use, and George Orwell was one of them. But the other three were all white male names. Sylvia Plath's Bell Jar was actually first taken under another name, but it was a white female name. A pseudonym is very different than appropriation. So that was the distinction that I think a lot of people in the community got. I hope. Maybe I'm being too optimistic there too.
When I first started publishing stories, I was writing Korean and Korean adoptee characters, and you can still actually find a story of a terrible terrible story of mine online where I published under the name Matthew Saw, which was my birth surname, Salsis, because I worried about authenticity. I had to worry about that, and Michael Derrick Hudson never really did, right? It's just so different, I think.
20-some years ago, I was living in Chicago, and I ran a support group for young Korean American adoptees. And they were preteens, and once a month, we would get together and we would talk. And one of the themes was about names and the depth of complications that Korean adoptees at that point had with their names. And I said, tell me about it. What's hard? And they said, well, it would be like school gathering night for concerts or plays, and that all the kids will want to guess who your parents are, and that nobody would ever know who our parents were coming in, and that they would always make fun of our names. You don't deserve that name was one of the things that I really still remember, and that having an Anglo name, I think, I don't have one, but from what my children told me is that it's a very, very complicated and psychologically, ambivalent at best, holder of one's identity.
Yeah, Malcolm X's justification for going to the X was because Little was a slave name. He changed his name. A lot of adoptees take their name if they find it. So it is very complex. I would agree 100%.
Although, when you get to a certain age and you're a woman, people just assume you're married.
Yes.
I'm not. Talk to me later.
There's a lot of wine left.
Did they know it when they planted the seed? That the poetry would grow into a family tree?
What he writes, he memorizes, erases, recites the next day. His song of labyrinth stops when a comrade passes our hut.